Avondale, or the shops of Ponte Vedra.
Jimerson Burr is a full-service, Florida-based commercial law firm that has experience and capabilities to handle any legal issue a business is confronted with. Learn more about what they can do for you at jimersonfirm.com.
This is your 1010XL local sports update. I'm E.T. Jeff Lagerman recently joined the boys of Jaguars Today and made this comment about rookie tight end Brenton Strange.
Brenton Strange is probably the best space blocker that I've watched on college film in a long time. The guy's an excellent blocker. He finishes well. But on top of that, he's athletically strong. He's a good receiving tight end. And pairing him with Evan Ingram, I think is going to be exciting.
You can hear that interview in full. All you have to do is head over to 1010XL.com and click on the On Demand tab. Currently, it's 9:56 and it's 80 degrees. Your time and your temp is brought to you by Bueller Air Conditioning. Stay cooler with Bueller. Stay tuned because Jaguars Today is next with Tony Smith, John Shipley, and Demetrius Harvey right here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, the official personal injury law firm of the Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
But look at us now.
This one goes down as one of the greatest, victories I've ever had. I can honestly say this, in all my years of being around this game, being around what we did in the first half.
That ball is batted in and it's going to be picked off. It was tipped at the line of scrimmage and it is picked off by the Chargers. And here we go on fourth down. They snap it quickly, dropping. It's a blitz. Trevor fires downfield, and that ball is going to be picked off. Two receivers to either side, and a shotgun for Trevor Lawrence. Deep in the running back, he drops, four-man rush. Looking, fires, and that ball is picked off again. Drops on third and 10 is Trevor. Looking, fires. And that ball's intercepted. Asante Samuel, I believe, has his third interception of the game. Not very good play. Shanked out a little bit. It's going to bounce, but it takes the Charger bounce. An incredible Charger bounce. The Jags might have touched the ball. I think the Jags touched it originally. And the Chargers have jumped on top of this thing.
Compared to the second half. What we talked about at halftime of just hanging together, one play at a time mentality. Defense was going to go get the stops. We were going to get the ball. We were going to punch it in the end zone, score every drive if we had
Second down goal from the 9. Dropping. Looking. Fires to the right corner of the end zone. And that ball is caught for the touchdown. Christian Kirk for the score. Dropping. Trevor looking. Fires toward the back of the end. The ball's going to be caught for the touchdown. Marvin Jones Jr. for the score. Dropping this time. Trevor looking. Fires deep downfield. Got a man wide open. Zay Jones into the end zone. Touchdown, Jaguars.
And you did. Offensively, you did. Oh, great job.
They run the ball with ETN. Tries to get the corner. He does. 35, 30, 25. He is going to get wrestled to the ground at the 15-yard line. What a play call.
But I'm going to tell you something, guys. I'm proud of you for this reason. You have faith in yourself. You have faith in each other. You keep encouraging one another like we talk about all the time, and you believe.
There's so many plays, offense, defense, special teams, but with 3 seconds left, it came down to one dude, right?
Cook puts it down. Patterson's kick is up. The field goal is good! Good! The Jaguars have won it! The Jaguars have won it! They have come back from 27-0 to win the game and move on! How good is that?
Riley.
Yep. This one better go on the case, Riley. Let's go. Yes, sir.
Hey, Jags on 3. 1, 2, 3. Before we get out of here, we got to get at least one. You ready? 1, 2, 3.
This boy got a hit.
Come on, somebody!
XL 92.5 FM presents Jaguars Today with your host, Tony Smith, and E to the T.
Oh, how's that for an intro to get you ready for a Wednesday here on Jaguars Today? I got to tell you, E, I haven't told you this before. I've thought it virtually every time you've played that open since they had the comeback against the Chargers.
Talk to me.
My favorite you've ever put together.
Yeah, mine too.
Every time I hear it, I'm like, my gosh, sports is the best.
It is, man.
Like, it's just the absolute best. Nothing else can create that kind of feeling like everyone had who was in that stadium that night. There's just nothing else like it. I was watching the sounds of the season again from the Jags through the whole year, and you get to that game to even know that it's going to happen, right? Like 27-0 and be like, no, it's all right. Like, they're going to be fine. And this one tonight, it's absolutely wild, and it's hard to express how happy I still am for every Jaguars fan that got to be a part of that.
Man, that's for sure my favorite all time. I don't think I'll ever be able to produce one like that one because of the song and then, just the moment. Whenever I play that, I go through that night. Yeah. It was cold. I was mad. We were losing. I had no faith. And then guess what? God did. Them boys won. The stadium was crazy. I saw towels swinging, like the view from the Bud Zone. Everybody was so happy, man. I loved it. It was beautiful.
Yeah, and you can go back and hear everyone talking about Trevor Lawrence talking about I looked up and nobody left, right? Like all those moments that came out of that playoff come from behind victory against the Chargers, and that's following up the week before where they had their biggest regular season game in franchise history and ended it the way they did against the Tennessee Titans. My goodness, what a 2022 season for the Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll talk about some of our expectations for 2023 and what's been going on to this point in the offseason today as we get a full house here for Jaguars Today this morning. Demetrius Harvey joining us from the Florida Times Union. What's going on this morning, Demetrius?
How's it going? I'm doing all right. Happy to be here. It's always exciting to talk some Jaguars football. I think we all know that this year is going to be huge for them, so it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, how can they build on what they were able to accomplish last year? Certainly a big question. John Shipley joining us as well from the Jaguars Report. What's going on this morning, John?
Hey, doing good, my friend. How you doing?
Doing well. I appreciate you fellas joining me for the show today as we dig into it. How long have you guys each been covering the team?
I started pretty much in 2019. I think John was around the same time.
Yeah.
And that was basically when I first got into the building as a media member. Before I had sort of done some light work, from home. But yeah, 2019 is probably when I started. So about 5 years now, or something like that. 4 or 5 years. It's crazy.
So last year was the first time you saw them have even a modicum of success.
Before last year, the best season I had covered was 6-10. I think so. Yeah, it was pretty significantly the best Jaguars team I had covered.
Yeah, and as I said, I was watching through the sounds of the season again last night. It's a 50-minute video, right, that the Jaguars production team put together. They're talking to, a bunch of fans, like season ticket holders, including Cap, who we've had on from time to time with the Bold City Brigade, and watching them be able to relive that season. I mean, it's unbelievable what they were treated to last year in the home games, but the way the season ended, the playoff run, like all of it, it's ridiculous to think it was real when you look back on it, and the multiple 17-point comebacks that they had in the last 4 or 5 weeks of the year, including the playoff. Like, it's wild when you look back at it.
It's crazy. I mean, going into last year, we were just coming off of, obviously probably the worst season
You're
in
picking
franchise
first overall
history.
again, yeah.
Picking first overall, just a terrible situation, and you're thinking, hey, if they can pull out 7, that'll be fine. That would be a pretty good number, and I think that everybody, including maybe the Jaguars to a degree, thought that was probably the bar or the ceiling. But yeah, going in and seeing what they were able to accomplish, it was crazy. I mean, all the comebacks, all the breakout players, Christian Kirk's coming in and everyone sort of, trashing the money that he made, and then you're sitting there looking at him and he's doing well and the team's doing well. So yeah, it was just a crazy season, and I think that obviously they hope that it continues.
Yeah, we'll see what they can do, right? Like, it's okay. So what? Now what? Like, they've really got to have that mentality this year. But I know, John, we've talked about it as you've had the chance to be out at OTAs, and look, it's limited. Obviously, you guys still only get to go out there for 1 a week. And I don't know how much they're going to open up in the mandatory minicamp if they have it next week for the media. It's usually been a little bit more if they have the mandatory minicamp. Yeah. Whatever days they're on the field has usually been open to whatever media wants to cover it, but we'll see. Obviously, they didn't even have that going on last year, so you're limited in how much you can learn about the football team. But I know talking to both of you guys over the course of the last 3 weeks that one of the things that has stood out is the team is just better.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And they're still, does it feel like they're still able to, at least for now, carry the momentum that they had at the end of last season? Like, does it seem like a team that's still surging a little bit at this point in the offseason?
It does. I think I wrote yesterday that, to me, the last 5 years covering the Jaguars, this is the best top to bottom pure roster I've seen the Jaguars have. I mean, the depth that they have at running back, at tight end, interior defensive line, inside linebacker. Of course, there are a couple spots that aren't as good as they have been in years past. The cornerback depth, pass rusher, but just from top to bottom, and I'm just looking at the skill players. I mean, you envision the Jaguars with the 5 best skill players on the field this year: Christian Kirk, Calvin Ridley, Zay Jones, Evan Ingram, Travis Etienne. I mean, that completely dwarfs any other five-person group that we've seen the Jaguars have in a long time. Probably since the Jimmy Smith, Fred Taylor, days.
Yeah.
Other than that, just top to bottom, this roster, in my opinion, it has the makings of one that's taken the next step forward, and that's even without making a big offseason move other than acquiring Calvin Ridley. And I also think if there's one thing you can gather from OTAs, it's probably the vibe of a team, maybe, in their mindset. And this does feel like a much more confident Jaguars team than it did at this time last year. Like last year, you could tell they were still trying to, recover from the Urban Meyer mess, trying to get to know Doug Peterson, learning a new scheme. Trevor Lawrence, he had to focus on developing and learning Doug Peterson's scheme, whereas now he can just focus on playing, focus on leadership, stuff like that. So I think it's a much more confident team and a much deeper team than we've probably seen in the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's a team good enough at the skill positions on offense, specifically right now, Demetrius, that they can punt on the opportunity that with DeAndre Hopkins being available.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's wild to think this franchise with where it was 2 years ago at wide receivers specifically, that now DeAndre Hopkins is available to the whole league, and the Jags can basically say, you know what, it'd be nice, it'd be a cool luxury, but it's not something we need to really pursue.
Yeah, I mean, and I sort of asked that question just to ask it, and I knew the answer. I mean, everybody knows the answer. They invested so much money in Kirk, Ridley, Zay Jones. I mean, where are you going to put DeAndre Hopkins? And that's such a crazy thing to really think about, because when you look at it in the past, everybody would have been, clamoring for him. He would have been the number one guy to target. Everybody's looking for that, X wide receiver. That's sort of a buzzword around town, where it's just, he's the guy to dominate. Former Clemson player, everybody would have made that connection too, even though he didn't play with Trevor. Just in terms of his high caliberness, and then for them to be able to say, hey, no, we have the guys that we want. We have the guys here now that can be perfect for Trevor Lawrence. I think that's a situation where it's like you haven't seen that here in a long time. It's just something to think about moving forward when it comes to all these positions. Even at running back now that John mentioned, that group is more stacked than ever. If Dalvin Cook were to be released, I don't envision the Jaguars making any sort of move to bring him in at all. And that would have been something where, in years past, perhaps people would have said, why are you not doing that?
Absolutely.
So it's just completely different. I think that's sort of, the baseline for this team right now.
It's nice to be in an era of Jaguars offensive football where every free agent that becomes available, it's not like, why don't they get that guy? Right? Like, they're failing at their jobs if they don't get this guy because he's available and we're so bad, right? Yeah. Like, and that's what it's been for, basically a decade. They had the blip in 2017 where the defense carried them, right? And Blake Bortles had a really good month, and that was good enough to get him to an AFC championship game that year, but 2018 worked out the way that 2018 did. This feels so much more reliable, right? What they have going on right here with the combination of Trevor Lawrence is going into year 3. And in his rookie year, they won the number 1 overall pick, right? Like, that's what they were able to accomplish in his rookie year. The next year, they won 9 games and a playoff game. Like, it is crazy. And so anyone who wanted to pump the brakes on Trevor Lawrence and the hype and all that stuff halfway through last year, well, the second half of the year, I don't know how you can't be as excited as maybe you've ever been about the Jacksonville Jaguars, given what you saw from Trevor Lawrence when he finally got comfortable within this offense. And what's that going to look like in year 3?
Absolutely. I mean, you made a great point. Through the first half of the season, probably up till the Broncos game, there were a lot of people who were still, questioning, okay, we haven't seen it from Trevor yet, at least in terms of, viewers and fan base. But I think, it was obvious I was going to click eventually, and then seeing the way it did, both the marriage between him and Doug Peterson and Peterson's scheme. And, you talk about the skill players. I mean, credit to the Jaguars because it took aggressive moves to get all those guys. Like the Christian Kirk and Zay Jones deals weren't popular, like on, social media, all those anonymous executive articles you see. Nobody was lauding the signing of Evan Ingram. Obviously the Calvin Ridley move was the roll of the dice, but they made aggressive moves. And, to this point, it's worked out for them. And it, like you said, it just seems more sustainable. I don't think in a year Trevor Lawrence is going to forget how to play quarterback, and that Christian Kirk is going to forget how to be one of the better slot receivers in the NFL. And they also have a scheme and coaches on offense that you feel like you can be confident that pretty much every player is going to be put in the best position. And I don't think that's anything you could say about any Jaguars offense in a long time. Yeah,
I don't think that it would be fair to say that Trevor Lawrence has hit his ceiling, right? 100%. And after 2 years in the league, even I'm not saying that he'll ever have a better moment than coming back from 27-0 down. Like that your second-year quarterback had the poise to do that kind of thing, right? Like that it didn't phase him to a point that it's like, oh, it's done. Like I was a Giants fan when they were drafting Eli Manning and going through all that. In his first couple playoff appearances, he was terrible, right? And it's like, okay, this guy's never going to win big. Then he did, right? They had those couple of runs, and it was incredible, and we'll see what winds up happening with Eli Manning and whether or not he ends up in the Hall of Fame. He probably does. I mean, you win 2 Super Bowls, and you're the MVP in both.
Yeah, that's usually how they do it.
Right? Like, it's probably going to end up with Eli Manning in the Hall of Fame. But it didn't start that way, right? With Trevor Lawrence, that his first opportunity in the playoffs looked like that in the first half, and then it ended the way it did. I mean, it's storybook stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't think that'll be his biggest moment in the playoffs because I do think Trevor Lawrence is a championship caliber quarterback, and I think that's ultimately what's going to happen. At some point, I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be hoisting a Lombardi trophy, is what I expect to happen. And so I don't think it'll be his best moment ever, but that it was his first taste of the playoffs, and he's capable of that kind of thing. I mean, you can't put the roof high enough for where that guy could take this franchise if they continue to surround him with the right pieces, which it feels like to this point they are.
There's a reason why, when he was coming out, everybody thought he's the next best thing. He's the next quarterback from a John Elway to an Andrew Luck, those type of guys. There's a reason why that was, the talk all around town, generational quarterback. Everyone was throwing out that phrase last year, during their sort of losing slump, and they were like, is he a generational guy? Is he a generational guy? People didn't realize.
Insult. It's crazy.
Yeah, like, what does that even mean?
I still don't know what exactly it means, but to me, if you talk about a generational prospect, that just means that, coming from the college game to the pros, they're a quarterback or a player that has the ability to, reach this high caliber play. It doesn't mean that they're going to come in and immediately be a Hall of Fame quarterback. Peyton Manning went through his slumps. We all like to compare the two. I mean, it's not really comparable to an extent.
Mm-hmm.
But what he went through his first year, I think that a lot of people, while they would say, yeah, that was terrible, they didn't really give it much credit when it came down to it last year during his slump. They're saying, hey, is this guy the actual, guy to take them further? Rather than, hey, he went through all this stuff in 2021. Perhaps this is just some lumps he's going to have to go in through a brand new offense. Doug Peterson is brand new. The whole a whole new coaching staff, just everything that surrounded it. I thought that, he was able to overcome all of that. And so, what he was able to show last year, I mean, it just shows what, how good this team can be. I think that every team, it's sort of predicated by the quarterback position. I think that everybody, would say that if you have your guy at quarterback, you're probably in pretty good shape. And I think that the Jags right now, they have their guy at quarterback and they have their guy as the head coach. And those are the two things that you really need.
Yeah, it would ruin a lot of young players. What Trevor Lawrence had to go through in the first year and a half of his career would put a bunch of guys in a rut.
Sure.
It didn't do that to Trevor, right? Like, he continued to grow, got better and better and better, and you reap the benefits of that the second half of last year, and you feel like you can continue to reap those benefits for the next, who knows how long.
Yeah.
Here in Jacksonville, ultimately, when everything is said and done. Our question of the day today, brought to you by Chad and Sandy Real Estate, asking, what would Calvin Ridley have to accomplish this season for you to be in favor of the Jaguars offering him a 4-year, $84 million contract, which would make him the 9th highest paid wide receiver in average annual value, similar to a question we asked about Josh Allen yesterday. So we'll get you guys' reaction to the Josh Allen one. Obviously, we'll react throughout the show today about the Calvin Ridley question right there. We got a bunch to get into. The Jags announcing stadium renovation plans, or at least unveiling some of those things as we're speaking right now. So we'll react to some of that on the show this morning as well. John Shipley, Demetrius Harvey, alongside E.T. and Tony Smith. It's a Wednesday edition of Jaguars Today on 1010 XL.
Keeping the Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute studios clean. It's a Waste Management Wednesday on 1010 XL. JOI, where the pros go.
Here's Linda Beaver.
We know that you have options when it comes to buying or servicing your vehicle. We also know that not all experiences are created equal. We promise when you choose to do business with Beaver, you will always get a genuine smile when you arrive, commitment to what you need to accomplish with your purchase or service, and lifelong relationships with a team that cares. Pair all that with a huge selection of inventory. You can't go wrong with Beaver Toyota in St. Augustine or Beaver Chevrolet in Jacksonville. We promise we're here to wow ya.
Are you embarrassed by your ugly, cracked concrete driveway? Need to enhance your home's curb appeal? Stonecore on Phillips Highway is your one-stop shop for all your outdoor needs. Replacing with new stone pavers will transform your driveway into a stunning work of art. Say goodbye to unsightly concrete and hello to beautiful, durable pavers that last for years. Visit Stonecore today and let's beautify your home together. Stonecore.co. We do outdoors better.
Ever wonder what it's like to drive a real military tank? Check out tankAmerica.com for a badass tank driving experience. That's right, you can drive an actual tank through mud and crush cars. Sounds awesome, right? Visit tankAmerica.com.
Did you know that all graduates of Local 234's apprenticeship program are licensed journeymen? That means all plumbers, pipe fitters, welders, and HVAC techs will have hundreds of hours of experience and have passed the Jacksonville City Licensed Journeyman exam. They're the best trained and safest skilled tradespeople in the industry. Don't leave yourself exposed to inadequate workmanship or even danger. Always hire a licensed journeyman. Local 234. Make the right connection. Equal opportunity employer.
Have lunch with a former Jacksonville Pro Bowler.
Join me, Leon Searcy, on XL Primetime, weekdays from noon to 1:30.
Lunch with Leon.
Here's to lunch, anyway.
Brought to you by the Sausage Dudes. Sausage with a purpose on 1010 XL.
Hi, this is Dave Barker. Want to grow your hair back?
IHRS, right here in Jacksonville, is the only hair transplant clinic in the country that offers multi-unit hair grafting, FUE Neograft hair transplants, and the 45-minute effective PRP treatments.
Multi-unit hair grafting gave me more hair in one procedure and within my budget.
Thank you, IHRS.
IHRS showed me what was causing my hair loss and helped stop it.
Schedule a free evaluation and find out how to grow your hair back and keep the hair you have. Call 904-777-IHRS. Take the first step to restoring your hair today. Visit hairforme.com.
Now my hair will grow for the rest of my life. Thanks, IHRS.
IHRS has been restoring hair for men and women for over 30 years.
Call now for a free in-person or virtual evaluation. 904-777-IHRS. That's 904-777-4477. Or visit hair4me.com.
Catch a wave to the Jacksonville Sharks for their fight against the Fayetteville Mustangs this Saturday, June 10th, 7 o'clock at the VyStar Arena. With tickets as low as $15, you cannot find this kind of affordable fun anywhere else. It's Hawaiian night in the Shark Tank. Stay for the post-game auction to win our Hawaiian Sharks jerseys. Kids, 6 to 16, sign up for a chance to dance with our junior attack dance team. Shark Tank, this Saturday, June 10th, 7 o'clock at the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena. Call 904-621-0700 or check out jacksharks.com. Fins up.
This is Hayes Carline for Kingfish Pest Control. Look, warmer weather now means mosquito, flea, and tick season is here. These pests are out for blood, but you don't have to let them win. Protect your home and family with Kingfish Pest Control. As a Kingfish customer myself, I know their products are safe for kids and pets. Plus, with a 100% satisfaction guarantee, you can relax knowing your yard is pest-free. Call today, mention the Jags to receive 10% off your initial service. That's Kingfish Pest Control, proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Mark Watson with Hardball Creative, with answers to the questions I'm asked the most. Yes, we are local, and no, I'm not hiring an actor to read these commercials. Check us out at hardballcreative.com.
Hardball Creative. Hardball does it all.
This is Hayes Carline for Spickelmeyer Insurance Agency. I was paying too much for car insurance, paying for things I didn't need. My friend John Spickelmeyer fixed all that for me with impeccable customer service. For all your car insurance needs, call John at 471-7155.
Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you. For lost or broken keys or nearly any make and model of vehicle, call 722-1111 for Instant Keys locksmith service.
When looking for a firearm, you want knowledge of product, a fair price, and of course, a quick process. Beach's Jewelry and Pawn in Jack's Beach is always stocked with brand new firearms and the quickest in and out times this side of the ditch. BeachesJewelryandPawn.com.
The players are on the field, and 1010XL is there. Driven by Tire Outlet. Listen for 1010XL's coverage of organized team activities and minicamp. Brought to you by Duck Duck Rooter Plumbing and Septic Services and Safe Harbor Seafood Restaurant and Market. Summertime in your favorite city.
In the summertime when the weather is hot,
There's no place like home.
we're always happy. Life's for living, yeah, that's our philosophy.
Stay cool with 1010XL 92.5 FM
Jaguars Today.
on 1010XL. All Jags, all NFL. Jaguars Today on 1010XL.
Tony Smith, John Shipley, Demetrius Harvey, E.T. here with you. Mike Dempsey on assignment all week long. He'll be back with us on Monday here on Jaguars Today. Speaking of the Jaguars, they have released the video showing some of the renderings for, what the renovated stadium could look like. And, guys, it's beautiful, right? Like not that we didn't expect if they were going to put out a few pictures of what's going to happen with it, right? That it's not going to be beautiful, but that's pretty much the big takeaway, is that it is a really nice rendering of what the stadium could potentially look like.
Yeah, they've entered the spaceship stadium, territory, which is, the big trend right now. And like you said, man, it looks beautiful. I mean, especially, obviously, it's an unfair comparison because of how old the stadium is now, but just imagining, what they have now to what's presented, if that's what gets done, I mean, it's a beautiful, beautiful looking place.
It looks cool. It looks. I mean, we obviously always think like whatever they show is what we would expect. But we've seen with Daly's Place and stuff like that, it's not always going to be 1-to-1. But I do think that when it comes to a stadium deal, I feel like the renderings are usually closer to how it actually does come out. So if it does, it's going to be great. I mean, this is sort of what we expected. It looks like they have a roof. It looks like there's shade everywhere. It looks like there's field level suites. There's a bunch of different amenities. They haven't really announced anything. It's not an announcement as we all kind of thought, I think. But it's still a pretty cool video to look at. It gets people talking. That's probably what they wanted.
Yeah.
It looks like the home of a future Super Bowl champion. That's what it looks like.
That's
it
for
looks
sure.
like a place where the Super Bowl will be hosted in the near future.
Yeah, and I'm with you. Like usually these kind of renderings come out, and then the reality, it's like, okay, they didn't quite get this, this, and this. I will say the practice facility, what they rendered is what they got. Right now, I think it's easier to pull off with something like that than it is the stadium. Right, and whatever you're going to get done. But the last big project like that they said, this is what we think this is going to be, and that's exactly what it looks like now that we're getting eyes on it. And I guess we're going to see everybody on that field here in about a month.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm excited for it.
For training camp when that thing gets opened up.
That's going to be great. I mean, just looking at it, and it's crazy because every time you come downtown now, it seems like it gets better and better, more and more almost done.
Yeah.
And that's because, in a month, I think a month and change, right? Around July 26th, something like that, that's when training camp starts. They're expected to be in there. I think they're going to do a tour right before that. It's going to be interesting to see, how those kind of work. Us in the media, we get our own little kind of place to go instead of, being stuck where we are now. But yeah, so it'll be interesting to see. And I think that, those kind of things, that's sort of the vision that I think Shad Khan had when, Urban Meyer was here was, they want this to be the best performance center in the league. Now, will it be that? I don't know, but it's at least something more than they had in the past. I mean,
where we're at now is a diplomatic. So I'm excited for Windows, and the media room. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, I mean, pretty much anything would be better. But it looks great, and I'm really excited to see what that is, and then obviously now the stadium to see what turns out with that situation.
Yeah, but what they're putting out today, as you mentioned a moment ago, Demetrius, it's not answering the questions on cost, right? It's not answering any questions on how long it's going to take. It's not answering any questions on if it is going to be a 3-4 year process, how many of those years will they not be able to play in that stadium while it's being built, and what they would do when they're not going to be, right? Which are the big questions that we've been discussing, since Lenny Curry said what he had to say here on 1010XL. It's not answering any of those questions. It's giving an idea of what the end product they expect it to look like. It's here's our target, right? Here's our target for what we envision this being when we get to do what we want to do with a refurbished stadium here in Jacksonville. Get excited about it, right? But in the end, that's all it is pictures of what they are saying here is what we're shooting for. Basically, when this whole thing is done, none of the money, none of the politics, none of the moving around, the moving pieces of any of this are being discussed with this rendering. And believe me, they will be, right? And are being discussed behind the scenes as far as how they're going to get any of this kind of stuff done. It is interesting that all this is happening the week that Buffalo is breaking ground, right, on their new stadium. So with that getting done, yeah, the one here in town, it's the old dog, right?
Yeah.
The entire NFL community, the Packers are still playing in Lambeau, but they have refurbished it, right? The Bears are still playing in Soldier Field, but they have refurbished it. So you have some of these older stadiums in the league that have been at least refurbished, and it's not like when you see Lambeau or Soldier Field, it's like, what a modern facility. Like, that's not what they were shooting for with their refurbishing. It's like Jacksonville seems to be, we're going to refurbish the stadium and make it look like the new stadiums look like today.
It looks like, they might as well just take down the old stadium and put this up. That's sort of the dramatic change. I mean, you see different situations like in Miami where they put the shade up. They probably added some things, but to me, at least, that stadium pretty much looks exactly the same as it did, 5-10 years ago. This looks completely different. This looks like it's just going to be the bones, which is what they basically have said in the past that they would like to do, and then everything else is completely different. And you hear those timelines, 2 years, 4 years. Now you can sort of see, in my opinion, why it would take 2 years if they play away, or 4 years if they stay here in Jacksonville. Obviously those are still things that they're going to discuss. It's not set in stone, but you can see why this is sort of a long-term project. And I think another thing you can take from those renderings is that they want this to be more than just the Jaguars stadium. They would obviously like to have the college football playoff here. They would like to have different events. I think I saw a hockey game in the rendering video. There's something going on there with the ice. So, it'll be interesting to see, what they're able to do. And I think that, that's sort of their plan, is to make this, bigger than the Jags.
Hockey in a stadium in Jacksonville, Florida, kind of blows your mind a little bit.
I mean, we do got like a dog thing in there, don't we?
Yeah, we got a dog
So
park.
it's
Yeah.
not too crazy.
Paradise.
Right?
Yep.
But like I heard that, I was like, okay, so the NHL plays their outdoor series, and it's like, what? Like, like Jacksonville, Florida?
Be a strange place.
Yeah, it'd be a strange place for hockey in a stadium environment anyway. I don't know how much there would be, interest in that kind of thing. But I do think they're building with the idea of college football and the playoffs that are going on with that in mind, to have a facility that makes sense to be at least a part of whatever that's going to be.
Maybe the draft.
Maybe the draft. We'll see if they ever want to talk Super Bowl in this city again. I don't know how nationally that would be received with the way that they still talk about it the first time around. I was around for that Super Bowl when they were having it. There was nothing wrong with what was happening in the city with that Super Bowl, but the national people are the national people, and they talk about these things the way they do. And I know, discussing like Lambeau Field, I think is a good discussion point for this, because me as an NFL fan, I'd be bummed, like a little bit bummed if the Packers ever moved out of Lambeau Field. Right? Like there would be
wouldn't feel right.
Right, like something about that would be like, oh, that's a shame. It's like when the Yankees built New Yankee Stadium. I know why they did it. They did it for the money, right? Like I know why they did it, but there was something about going to New York and being able to go to that old stadium. I had friends who had no interest in baseball that had a chance to go to a game up there at Old Yankee Stadium, and he called me and he was like, "Hey, I'm at Yankee Stadium." I was like, "That's cool." He's like, "I know nothing about sports." I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, "This place is weird." I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, something about this place is weird. Like, it just feels different. I've never been in a place that feels like this. I was like, yeah, you're watching a field where Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and Willie Mays, like, you're looking at history, right? Like, every time you walked into that place, and when they tore it down, it's like, oh, right? And it would feel that way with Lambeau.
Yeah.
To some degree, it would feel that way with Soldier Field. So I'm glad they did it the way they did it. Chicago's fooling around with what they're fooling around with right now, and we'll see what ultimately happens, like if they wind up not playing in Soldier Field. But that's not the case here, right? Like, there's history in that area, right? Like downtown, here's where the stadium has been, so there's history for fans in that area, but it's not attached to the stadium in the same way that it is in some of these other places. So I think it's ripe for, let's modernize this thing and see what we can do to bring it into the 21st century of the NFL.
Yeah, it's not a situation where it's really historical. I mean, obviously people in Jacksonville, will love, the old Gator Bowl and things like that. Obviously they have some sort of, attachment to it.
Yeah, I got to see Michael Jordan at Wolfson Park. That
Sure.
doesn't mean I miss Wolfson Park.
Exactly. And I think that's the thing. This has been something that I know from speaking with fans that they've been looking for a long time.
Yeah.
I mean, especially the sun stuff, the heat, how hot it gets and the sun coming down on you. I think that people wanted shade for forever. They wanted new concourses. They want new food. I know that that's a huge thing. If a new stadium potentially can get you a new sponsor there or whatever it may be. But the fact of the matter is, I think that everybody in Jacksonville, if you told them you can snap your fingers and make this the stadium today, they would say yes, for no cost or whatever it would be. But so yeah, I think that this is something where, they're sort of getting modernized, like SoFi Stadium. I mean, we've seen that, the spaceships. We've seen the one in Las Vegas, which I would love to go to. I hear it's amazing. So, I mean, I think that this is something where Shad Khan feels that will be the next place that everybody talks about. They're going to say, have you seen TIAA Bank Field or whatever it's going to be named, after a while. So, have you seen that stadium? Because that's going to be the next, blueprint, the next vision.
Yeah, and I recognize, too, that I'm doing a show where I'm talking to Jaguars fans that are all going to be cool with the stadium being renovated.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I know I'm talking to that audience. It's like that audience hears it and says they're going to invest how much money in it? They're never leaving, right? Like, that's what that audience hears. I get that. That's not the whole city. That's not the whole area. So when all those other things get brought in, we'll see what ultimately happens with this. I think if this is the direction Shad Khan wants to push the team as far as refurbishing the stadium, that ultimately that's what's going to happen, right? Is they're going to find a way to get this deal done. And we'll see how long they're not able to play here when everything is said and done. I hope, again, as we discussed a few weeks ago, I hope it's Gainesville if they can't make it happen here in Jacksonville for a couple years, that they go play 8-9 games in Gainesville each year. It's what I ultimately hope would wind up happening. I don't want to see them play, 4 or 5 games in London. That's silly, right? Like that kind of thing. I don't care about the city of Orlando. So, I don't necessarily want to see Orlando getting to host the Jaguars for a year or two. Gainesville makes plenty of sense to me. But again, they're not answering any of those questions about what any of that'll look like with what they're doing today. I do want to get you guys' reaction to the questions of the day we've had through the first couple of days this week as we continue along. It is a Wednesday edition of Jaguars Today. You're listening to us on 1010 XL.
It's another Waste Management Wednesday in the Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute studios on 1010 XL.
Did you know the 2023 Honda CR-V Hybrid never needs to be plugged in? The onboard system charges the batteries for you. When you think Honda, think hybrid. Good for the environment, great for your budget. Visit your local Honda dealer to experience the CR-V of the future today.
Wrestling fans, the River City Wrestling Con will slam into the Jax Fairgrounds June 10th and 11th. This two-day event will feature appearances by pro wrestling superstars, exciting wrestling matches, and an assortment of vendors and artists. Guests include Kurt Angle, Saraya, Jake the Snake Roberts, Rob Van Dam, and many more. Get tickets at rivercitywrestlingcon.com or follow on social media for event updates. June 10th and 11th, the River City Wrestling Con at the Fairgrounds.
If it's time to upgrade or remodel your old fireplace, there's one name to know: CSS Fireplaces and Outdoor Living. Schedule a showroom tour and see why local builders voted CSS the best of St. John's. Visit CSSFireplaces.com.
Duck Duck Air Conditioning, a division of Duck Duck Rooter, is looking for experienced and dependable HVAC services technicians to join our growing team. Duck Duck Air Conditioning is committed to delivering the highest level of service to our customers. Successful candidates will be hardworking, dependable, possess strong problem-solving skills with at least 2 years of HVAC experience. Ready to get to work? Please visit our website at duckduckac.com and click on the careers page. We look forward to hearing from you. That's duckduckac.com.
Duck Duck AC is an equal opportunity employer. In sports, the grind outside the lines is what ultimately defines our success. Get the amateur's edge, powered by B3 Better, to learn the hidden path of top pros, amateurs, and coaches. Saturday mornings at 11 on 1010XL.
Jumbo Shrimp Baseball, presented by FIS, is home all week at 1-to-1 Financial Ballpark. Tomorrow is Coors Light Thirsty Thursday with beer specials. Then it's Red Shirt Friday with fireworks presented by Baptist Health. And the first 2,000 fans on Saturday get a free Jumbo Shrimp duffel, plus more fireworks. Baseball all week and weekend. Tickets start at just $5.
Tired of the same old places for happy hour? Downtown's best is at Bellwether. It's Tuesday through Saturday from 4 to 7, with the exception on Friday when happy hour starts at 11, because why not? For all you late-nighters, Bellwether offers nightcap specials on Friday and Saturday from 9 to 11. Want a snack with your cocktail? Bellwether has a unique bar food spread. And guess what? All metered parking is free after 6 and weekends. That's Bellwether Downtown.
Servicing every customer like they're famous. But what does that mean for you? It comes down to the famous philosophy. You'll find a consistency at all 20 locations in friendly service, honest pricing, and realistic time expectations. They know when you find someone you trust to maintain your vehicle, keep it running right, and lasting longer, you'll stick with them. And that's the famous philosophy at Famous Automotive in Quick Lube. Ask about a fleet account for your business.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, it's Prosser here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days, and a $50,000 loan will only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money and pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement project. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. So even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness. Say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 904-999-1508. That's 904-999-1508. Or as always, you can visit loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
He's part of the dynamic duo in Dolphins country, and now you can meet and get an autograph from Tyreek Hill at Palm Beach Autographs Friday, June 9th in the Avenues Mall. All the details are at palmbeachautographs.com. Meet Miami Dolphins wide receiver Tyreek Hill at Palm Beach Autographs Friday, June 9th.
Men, are you suffering from erectile dysfunction or PE? The medical providers at Prime Men's Medical Center offer breakthrough treatments that eliminate problems in the bedroom without pain or surgery. 98% of men see instant results on their first office visit. Listen to a specialist in men's health.
I'm Dr. Simovitz. Prime Men's Medical Center offers breakthrough medical treatments that eliminate ED and PE. Men are even lasting 90 minutes or longer, regardless of age or medical history.
But that's not all. For a limited time only, call Prime Men's Medical Center now, and your initial consultation and first treatment are completely free. You'll see instant results right in the office. You'll even get a gift that enhances your performance in the bedroom. All this, worth hundreds of dollars, is free if you call now. 904-664-8217. 904-664-8217. That's 904-664-8217.
The players are on the field, and 1010XL is there. Driven by Tire Outlet. Listen for 1010XL's coverage of organized team activities and minicamp. Brought to you by Duck Rooter Plumbing and Septic Services and Safe Harbor Seafood Restaurant and Market.
If you come with us, you're in this life for good.
This is it.
Yeah, this is it.
This is what?
1010XL. This is Jaguars Today on 1010XL.
Has time, lofting for the corner. It's a touchdown. Ridley again. Second down off the play fake, getting it away. Calvin Ridley doing the rest. Touchdown.
Now more Jaguars Today on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
A lot of excitement for Calvin Ridley joining this squad this year, and just how much can he elevate that wide receiver room here in Jacksonville. Certainly seems like a guy that steps in as a top of the depth chart, potential number one wide receiver for this football team, fits more that mold. I don't think they've had that since Jimmy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, not a guy that is you walk in, everybody knows that's the alpha. Right? The whole league knows that's the alpha. I don't think they've had that in that room since Jimmy. I think there was some hope that Allen Robinson may turn into that, at one point early on in his career, and then that second contract just didn't happen with the ACL and everything else that went into that. And now he's a wandering vagabond looking for a home, around the league, but hasn't had a good couple of years. We'll see what winds up happening with A-Rob's career, but Calvin Ridley expected to come in and be a top of the depth chart guy for this Jaguars team. Our question of the day today asking you, what would Calvin Ridley have to accomplish this season for you to be in favor of the Jaguars offering him a 4-year, $84 million deal, which would make him the 9th highest paid wide receiver in average annual value? Yesterday we asked almost the exact same wording, just with Josh Allen in the place of Calvin Ridley in the question. And so I asked, what would Josh Allen have to do for you to be in favor of the Jaguars offering Josh Allen a 4-year, $80 million contract next offseason, which would make him the 9th highest paid edge rusher in the league? E.T. said 12.5 sacks. If he got to that number, he'd be in favor of the Jags making that kind of offer. We had responses all over the place. Some people are like, if he had 100 sacks next year, he's not worth it, right? Like, he's just done with Josh Allen.
That's crazy.
Right here in I'm with you. I think that kind of stance is nuts. With Josh Allen, I'm more on if they made that offer now, I'd be okay with it.
Yeah. The question is, if you're not going to pay him that, who are you going to replace him with? Like, the teams are not letting pass rushers go, on purpose. If Josh Allen hit the market today, you can rest assured he'd make a lot of money. He just would. And people, I know, ding him for his production. Maybe comparing him to some of the other pass rushers who have came out in the last few years, it isn't elite production, but if you look at him compared to the rest of the team, I think I had a stat where he has 27.5 career sacks. All their other significant interior defensive linemen and outside linebackers combined have 38.5 career sacks. So like, he's just on a different level than any other player on the roster in terms of pass rush. So if you're not going to pay him, then like what are you going to do at the position? Like, you better hope Trayvon Walker can be that double-digit sack potential guy. And I know Josh Allen has only hit it in his rookie year, but I'm with you. If I'm the Jaguars, I'd be willing to pay that right now just because it's such an important position. And at the very least, it's a high-floor player who still, to me, has a high ceiling. I wouldn't be surprised if he hit 10 sacks this season. If he hits 10 sacks, I think most people should be like, okay, pay the guy.
There were times last season where you definitely saw those flashes like you've seen throughout his entire career where you're like, oh, wow, yeah, this is a great pass rusher. This is a guy who can come in and get a quick sack right away whenever you need it on third down. He's shown that throughout his career. And I think, like John said, if Josh Allen was a free agent right now, he would make that money like easily. I mean, you look at the contracts that teams are handing out to guys who are sort of, hit or miss. They're growing. People are giving out a lot of contracts on potential. You talk about potential. This guy probably has the top potential out of any pass rusher if he was on the open market before free agency started, and right now, especially when there's only a few guys. So yeah, I would personally do that contract today. I don't think that there's an issue with that. Now, would he live up to it? I mean, that's another question. Obviously, He still has to prove a lot of stuff. I mean, he still has to prove that he can consistently get to the quarterback. He can consistently get that, 10.5 sacks, or more, that kind of range that people sort of look for, because he's a guy that they're counting on, 7th overall pick or whatever it was, that's a pretty high capital draft pick for you to invest in. I think that they know that, if they have him and then they also have Trayvon Walker going off, then they're set.
I think you can make an argument he's the most important player this year. It's not named Trevor.
Yeah.
Honestly, I mean, I don't know where else the pass rusher's coming from unless you're expecting a big jump from Trayvon Walker. Where Tony, you and I have talked about it before. Where even Trayvon, I think in his best case scenario, I still don't think is a high volume sack guy. Like he impacts the game in a different type of way.
Yeah.
So if you want that guy, I think it has to be Josh Allen.
Well, and a couple of things. I'm going to go through the list of the guys that are getting that kind of money among the edge rushers here in just a moment. But again, I was watching the sounds of the season, right, from last night, and I think there may have been it might have just been one big defensive play that they had on that entire run where Josh Allen wasn't the primary defensive playmaker on the big defensive play for the Jags, or was influencing something that happened on the play that allowed it to be a big play, whether it was his pressure that forced an errant throw, like those kind of things. The sack numbers were what they were for Josh Allen. The pressure numbers were a different story, and I can understand the frustration from fans that look at it, they see the sack number, and they're like, don't talk to me about the pressure numbers. Like, I understand that level of frustration from the fan base right now, but I do think, we've discussed the PFF list where they had Josh Allen as the number 6 or 7 edge defender in the league, like just on their metrics because of how good he is as a run defender, the pressure stats that he has, like these different things that he has going on. I think right now he doesn't get the credit that his play actually merits from a big portion of the fan base at this point. That doesn't mean that I don't expect more.
Yeah.
Right? Because I do think Josh Allen is a guy that's capable of being a 12-sack guy. I don't think it's unreasonable that Josh Allen could be that this year. I really don't. I think he could have been that last year if he had a little bit more help along that defensive front. It didn't happen, right? And so you can always fall back on, yeah, but he didn't. And I understand that argument. It's the arbitration thing, right? In baseball. Football doesn't quite have that same kind of process to it, but that's the way these things happen. You point out a player's weaknesses, right, or the shortcomings that they have so that you can try to drive the price back down to what you want it to be. Here is the list of players that are getting that $20 million or above, right, on an average annual basis at the edge rush position. TJ Watt, $28 million. Joey Bosa, 27. Myles Garrett, 25. Khalil Mack, 23.5. Max Crosby just got that deal, 23.5. Bradley Chubb, 22. Leonard Williams, 21. He's interesting that he's on that list because they play him as an inside guy most of the time there in New York. And Von Miller at 20. I thought it was even more interesting to look at the next group.
Yeah.
That didn't get that $20 million, that now there's a drop from 20 to 17.5. But here's the group between 17.5 and 15. Harold Landry, Cameron Jordan, great player, Draymond Jones, Eric Armstead, Shaq Barrett, Chandler Jones, Emmanuel Ogbah, Zach Allen, who just got paid this offseason, Trey Hendrickson, Carl Lawson, Hassan Reddick. Hassan Reddick's underpaid.
Yeah.
But I think Josh Allen deserves to be in the conversation with almost every one of those guys, if not higher, than those guys. And if it's going to be that kind of range, then I think it's completely legitimate to make especially with whatever's going to happen with Nick Bosa, and we'll see what that winds up looking like. Whenever that gets done, it sounds like he's pretty confident it's going to get done soon. Maybe even before training camp gets started. He was talking about that yesterday. But whatever that deal is going to look like, it's going to reset the market for these guys. There'll be a couple more guys that are going to get paid at that kind of range. If you're going to get Josh Allen to take a top 10 as opposed to a top 3 or 4 contract at that position, I think in the end you're probably getting a bargain.
Easily. And I think that's the whole reason why you do it today. And that was sort of my thought process with it last year too. I had the same exact thoughts on Josh Allen then. I would have paid him back then. I would have said, go ahead and pay him now, because at this point the salary cap hasn't risen to the point where, you're going to have those $30 million pass rushing contracts. But now all of a sudden the cap space or the salary cap is going to skyrocket. I mean, all these TV deals and everything, the Amazon stuff, and all these players are going to get the next best. And I think that every player, goes through that thing where it's like, okay, so-and-so just got this much, let me get $1 million more. Quentin Williams is going to get, $1 million more than the last, guy signed. I think that's usually how the market works. So when you have a guy like Josh Allen, you can pay him maybe that $20 million now. You're not going to have to pay him that $28 million next year if he does have that standout season that would warrant it. I think that he is among that group, with Trey Hendrickson. So, I mean, if you want to count those guys, I mean, easily I would put him in that same group, and I think that it just makes sense. I think that the only guy that stood out was Reddick, and he's somebody who obviously should probably be.
It took a while.
Yeah,
it took a while, and that's why he's still getting what he's getting, and maybe Josh Allen fits that kind of description. Ultimately, that it's going to take him, until maybe the third deal before he gets the big money ultimately in the league. But I do think he's the type of player that's eventually going to get there. Hassan Reddick at $15 million a year, the Eagles are getting a bargain.
Oh, 100%. I mean, I don't think it's egregious to suggest Allen should get the Bradley Chubb contract. Because you're just looking at their impact on the field. I agree with you completely, Tony. I don't think what Allen did last season gets enough credit. I think last year was, the sack numbers weren't where they were in his rookie like they were in his rookie season. But if you go back and watch his rookie season, a lot of that was because he had 2 other really good pass rushers on that line to help him out. I think last year, from snap to snap, was his best overall season. And I know some people will say, 7.5 sacks. How can? But there were a lot of times when he was right there, and maybe if they had a consistent number 2 guy, obviously Arden Key and DeJuan Smoot were good rotational guys, but they never really had that consistent every down guy. I agree with you. I think, good run defender, good pass rusher who you can rely on week in and week out. Maybe not, maybe he'll never be, the Nick Bosa type, the Myles Garrett type. But if anybody's suggesting he isn't, in that top 12-ish range, I think overall, I think it would make sense.
Yeah. I know there were some people that wanted to trade him, at the trade deadline last year. And we would ask, we'd be like, what do you think you're going to get back for Josh Allen? They said they would say crazy things like, I don't know, I'd take like a 2nd-round pick. I'm like, are you nuts? Are you nuts?
Yeah.
You think you're going to replace the value of Josh Allen on your roster with a 2nd-round draft pick? Like, it just, that doesn't make any sense to me. I can understand, I really can. I can understand the fans' frustration that Josh Allen hasn't had that big sack breakout year yet. Right? And we've all been kind of waiting on it since his rookie year. It's like, this guy is on the come, man. Like, it's going to happen. We're going to have one of those guys in Josh Allen. There was so much excitement when he fell to him in the draft. It was like, how could the league be this stupid to allow Josh Allen to fall? as far as he did in the draft. And so there's been 3 years of, I can understand the fans being frustrated to some degree with Josh Allen, but the way he gets talked about is almost like he's a player that they can throw away.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's anywhere near that. I don't know that I would go as far as second most important player. We can have a discussion about that because I do think there's a bunch of different options that you could have
100%.
for that on this football team. But I think he is a really important piece, and it would be great for him, for the franchise, for everybody involved if he could have that breakout year here in year 5 and be that 12, 15 sack guy, and everyone can kind of calm down about whatever the offer is ultimately going to be to this guy to stay here in Jacksonville.
Yeah, everyone points to Trayvon Walker as the guy that they want to see get that 10.5 sacks. You know, the wrecking ball. Sorry, the wrecking ball, so to speak. And you have a guy in Josh Allen who can absolutely complement him, and he's a guy that can help unlock that potential for him. I think that's something where during his rookie season, he had Calais Campbell, Unique Ngakoue, that helped Josh Allen come along at that point. So if you have Trayvon Walker with Josh Allen, wouldn't you want to keep those two together for as long as possible? Because this guy isn't just some scrub. I mean, honestly, people talk about him as if he's, worthless. And then they say, I want to get a first-round pick for him. So it's kind of weird how that works. But I agree with you guys. What he did last year, I don't think it's enough credit. His game against the run. I mean, obviously last year, the touchdown, I know he wasn't the guy that got to the quarterback against the Titans, but, that was the biggest play of the year for the Jaguars. If he's not in the right position there, maybe they don't win the game. So I think it's a situation where he definitely is more valuable than people might give him credit for. Now, would you pay him the $30 million or whatever? Probably not, but you would pay him that $20 million range like you guys were talking about.
Yeah, and we'll see. It certainly looks like right now he's going to play out the 5th year on his contract, and then we'll see what it looks like next offseason when they got a bunch of guys they're going to have to make some decisions on. I'm more and more confident as each day goes by that Evan Ingram's going to be playing on the franchise tag, right, is ultimately how that's going to work out. So next offseason, you're looking at having to figure out what to do with Evan Ingram, with Josh Allen, and with Calvin Ridley. And you got one tag to use, right, on those 3 guys. So it'll be interesting to see what each of those 3 players does this year as to how they would even, when they get put in that situation, want to use the tag next year. This year, it made sense to me to use it on Evan Ingram ultimately instead of Jawan Taylor. It's the direction I would have gone with it. Totally get it. Next year, the decision's going to be a little bit tougher if you can't figure out a long-term deal with a couple of these guys. Do want to talk some offensive line with you guys as well. You've had a chance to at least see Anton Harrison on a practice field a couple of times now, and whatever the moving pieces look like along that offensive line. Some questions about the long-term position and value for a guy like Walker Little, maybe how he's looked at by this franchise right now beyond just 2023 potentially for a guy like Little. We'll dig into that as we're joined today on Jaguars Today by John Shipley, who covers the Jags for Jaguars Report, and Demetrius Harvey, who covers the Jags for the Florida Times-Union. We'll continue. We'll talk offensive line when we return on Jaguars Today on 1010XL.
Helping you over the hump. It's a Waste Management Wednesday on Jaguars Today.
Jaguars Today from the Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute Studios.
JOI, where the pros go. 1010XL takes you inside the program director's office with Dan and Jeff.
I don't like your style,
The Drill,
your politics, or your sense of humor.
Mornings
I don't like what you say or how you say it.
on 1010XL.
Blah, 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 blah.
Hey everybody, Mike Dempsey here for Dandy Foods. I'm not around this week. I'm on staycation. That means I'm kind of around the house a lot, but that doesn't mean I'll never go into the great outdoors. And when I'm driving around, whether it's heading to the golf course or doing some honeydews, if I get hungry, I know I can count on the great folks at Dandy to provide me wonderful options for on the go. Just swing into a gate station, head to the Fresh Case, and look over the great selection that Dandy has of classic sandwiches and subs, breakfast sliders, light lunchtime wraps, even some gourmet salads. They've got a menu that has to be seen to be believed, and really, even better, be tasted to be believed. All the highest quality ingredients, always delivered fresh, great variety, and prices that always put a smile on your face. It's a combination from Dandy that's been making them a success for over 65 years in the business. A Jacksonville company. When you're hungry in Duval, Dandy's the name to know. So do what I do. Go out and make yours a Dandy, and do it today.
Hello, this is Father Nicholas Lowe, and I want to talk to you about not being afraid of the crosses of life. Life can be difficult. Maybe today you're carrying a cross of worry or stress. Let me encourage you to remember that when Christ got on the big cross at Golgotha, he destroyed all the little crosses that we face in our life. He set us free from fear, worry, and anxiety. Our job is not to be carried by the cross, but to be carried by our faith.
For more inspiration, log on to stjohnthedivine.com.
Saturday, June 24th, the UFC returns to Jacksonville. The heavy-handed Josh Emmett looks to turn back undefeated phenom Ilia Topuria, plus dangerous Brazilian Amanda Ribas takes on the future Macy Barber. Don't miss UFC Fight Night, Emmett versus Topuria, live from VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com.
Hear that? That's the sound of the grill in summertime. That is a clean grill by Grill SOS. Backyard barbecue season is here. Let the 5-star rated pros at Grill SOS deep clean your barbecue grill. Book now at grillsos.com.
If your hair is thinning and you're looking for an easy solution that will restore your hair, check out IHRS PRP Platelet-Rich Plasma. PRP, using your own platelets and cells to restore your hair where it's thinning. Combined with their FDA-approved laser hair therapy and pharmaceutical-grade products, all three will deliver one better result. Call IHRS now for a free evaluation and to find out if their PRP 45-minute treatment will work for you. Now there is a solution for any man or woman with any degree of hair loss. And it's all in one place. Call 904-777-IHRS. IHRS has been restoring hair for over 30 years. The staff at IHRS knows what it's like to lose their hair. And that's why they're ready to help you grow your hair back.
Schedule your free hair and scalp analysis today. Call 904-777-IHRS. That's 904-777-4477. Or visit hair4me.com.
Home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
We've been telling you for almost a year about Nathan's Family Chiropractic and the 100-Year Lifestyle Network. If chronic back or joint pain is keeping you down, don't listen to me. Listen to what Jacksonville is saying about Dr. Alan Nathan.
The stem cell treatment took the pain away.
Changed my life. It's awesome.
Your body just works better when it's aligned. We're believers.
His no-needle regenerative protocols are giving people their lives back. Get yours back, too. Go to the pro in the know. Don't do another cortisone injection. He's one of us helping all of us for the past 25 years. For more info, drnathans.com.
Yo, this is Tony from Tony D's. Are you looking for a great slice of pizza? Well, we have about 12 varieties. Most places won't have slices of pizza after lunch. At Tony D's, you can get a slice all day. It's always fresh at Tony D's Pizza. Bay Meadows and 295.
Are you an electrician looking for better pay and benefits? Miller Electric Company has the industry-leading compensation package. Electricians are eligible for a signing bonus up to $1,000. Now, they're partnering with the Jaguars on their new performance facility, the Miller Electric Center. Miller Electric has opportunities for you to work on some of the most exciting projects right here in Jacksonville. Whether you're experienced or not, visit MillerCareers.com, an equal opportunity employer. That's MillerCareers.com.
Want to drive a real, authentic tank? For your chance to win a once-in-a-lifetime tank driving experience package for you and 3 friends from TankAmerica.com, text the word TANK to the 1010XL text line at 641-1010.
David here with Royal Pest Services. That grass is waking up from its winter nap. Royal is close to applying products that help bring it out of that dormancy. Our granular aeration allows treatment to get to the root system. Visit RoyalPestServices.com to schedule a free estimate. It's grow time!
When were the St. Johns River jetties built? The answer next.
There's always a good reason to compare homeowners' insurance rates. You may be paying too much. Protect your home with a Southern Oak insurance policy today.
Our family protecting yours. Southern Oak Insurance.
Congress approved plans to build the jetties in 1879, and construction was from 1880 to 1885.
Southern Oak Insurance. Our family protecting yours.
I'm Taylor Dahl with your 1010XL local sports update brought to you by Southern Oak Insurance. As the Jaguars announced yesterday, the plan to debut the first public look at the conceptual designs for the Stadium of the Future. We got our first look this morning, and the design includes a 360-degree concourse 4 times wider than the current one. It will include interactive social bars and a variety of unique experiences. The seating capacity will hold a base of 62,000 fans with expansion capabilities of 71,500 for college football games and concerts. The open-air venue features a canopy that reduces heat retention by more than 70%, lowering temperatures 10 to 15 degrees and protecting from weather. The stadium will also include lookout decks with citywide views. Visit First Down Downtown Jacksonville or Jaguars.com for a look. 82 degrees at 11:04. Time and temper brought to you by Bueller Air Conditioning. Stay cooler with Bueller.
Jaguars Today on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Draw play. Taylor skips 2 tackles. Right, and here we go. Yeah. Bye-bye. Brock Marion chasing. Brock Marion still chasing. Gets help from Smith. Touchdown. No flags. A 90-yard run.
All Jags, all NFL. Jaguars Today on 1010XL.
I think it was last offseason we put that rule in place, righty?
We did.
We put a rule in place here on Jaguars Today when Fred Taylor was put up in a 64-man tournament-style poll for best running backs of the 2000s, and his first-round matchup was against David Johnson, and he lost. And I came in the next day furious, right, that Fred Taylor would lose in any kind of contest to David Johnson at any point. I think he could outrun him right now, right? Like that kind of thing. But it was, and E.T. and I were doing the show together, and I told him from here going forward, anytime there's not a bad time, no context needed, you want to play a Fred Taylor highlight on this show, you play the highlight.
Here's the handoff to Taylor, looking for some cutback. He finds some room. Look at Fred go. He's across the 30. Look at him run. Fred's going. He's at the 50, the 40. They won't stop him. 30, 20, 10, 5. Touchdown. 80 yards. Fred Taylor.
They'll likely never have another one like him.
No, he's you talk about generational talents, and, people, of course, he was in the golden age of running backs and, stuff. He wasn't alone, but he was one of the truly elite running backs, and like you say, this is a franchise that's prided himself on having a lot of good running backs, but Taylor will always, be by far the best.
Oh yeah, Fred Taylor is. We'll see what happens with the Hall of Fame. Ultimately, he's a Hall of Fame caliber football player. We'll see if he's ever honored in that way, and I think a lot of us feel like he should be. Look, we all know the reasons that he hadn't been yet, and 1999 it ended differently. Like I still think about it for all those guys that Big Bo had to wait as long as he did to get into the Hall of Fame, that Jimmy Smith, I don't think he'll ever get in, and I think he should. Like I think Jimmy Smith is among the handful of the best wide receivers in the NFL in the 90s. The late 90s into the early 2000s, I think he's among the handful of the best to be at his position in the NFL. But he was playing in Jacksonville, and they never won. Right? And those things hurt him. Fred Taylor, it's the same thing. I get mad every time I go to his Pro Football Reference page and they got that stupid nickname on there. Yeah. I hate it. Like, I've written them. Like, they have to write it, and I'm like, y'all need to take this off. Yeah. It's not fair to the kind of football player that Fred Taylor was, that you have this stupid thing on his page every time anyone looks him up. It's like, what's that about? Oh, yeah, they did call him that, didn't they? Get it off. Yeah. Right? Like, it doesn't need to be there anymore when it comes to Fred Taylor. We'll see. We're trying to do our part for Fred here locally. We know we're just preaching to the choir on these things when we bring them up, but we're trying to do our part. Wanted to talk to you guys about offensive line stuff. It's been a month and a half since the draft. When are we going to hear whatever the suspension is actually going to be for Cam Robinson at this point?
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to think about. It's like, there's only a month until training camp. Yeah. The time's ticking. I'm sure as coaches they would want to know. I'm sure if they knew, they would say it, as soon as it happens. I'm sure we'll get that random email from the league one day, and all of a sudden he's going to be suspended for however many games or whatever it turns out to be. But I don't know when that's coming. I don't think that anybody knows at this point exactly when it's coming, and so that's something that they're going to have to factor in. I think that they sort of have been, and obviously the draft sort of predicated that too, and what they've done and stuff like that. So I'm really curious to see how long he's going to miss, and what that's going to look like.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the NFL, like their past suspensions like this, they normally come out like early May or so, right after the draft, and because they normally try to do them like all together, like because there's normally a couple here and there, and it's weird that it hasn't happened yet. And I think like you said, Demetrius, everybody is kind of waiting on that. Everybody is kind of in wait and see mode.
I'm curious. Like, because of the delay in it, maybe the appeal process has been stronger than we all know, right? From Cam's perspective and the team's perspective, and saying, hold on, wait a minute, right? With this one, that's the only thing I can think of in my mind, that the delay would still be happening in any kind of announcement of what the actual suspension is going to be, is that the appeal process may be going in the Jaguars' favor at this point. And I don't know if it winds up being a shorter one or what happens, because there was never an official announcement as to what it was going to be. So we were all like, it could be up to 6 games. So just assume it's 6, right? Like, that's the safe thing to do if you're trying to plan for what's going to happen. If you don't know, is okay, worst case scenario, he's out for 6 games. We got to figure out what that's going to look like without Cam Robinson for 6. The further and further we get into this, the more I think they're at least making up ground in the appeal process. And if I had to guess right now, my guess is that it winds up being 2 when everything is said and done. But I don't know. Yeah, nobody knows.
I mean, 2 games would be great for the Jaguars.
Yeah, I was about to say, that would probably be ideal.
Yeah.
That's exactly what they want. I think the biggest hangup, and I'm just speculating here, is I think they'd have to do a blood test, or they already did it.
Yep.
And so that has to go through. They have to figure out exactly what was taken, what was the illegal substance, and I mean illegal to the NFL. So that's what they would have to sort of work out, and then at that point, then they can issue the suspension. But obviously with the Jags appealing, and with Cam Robinson, with whatever they have to do, I guess that process is just taking a little bit longer. But like you said, maybe they're making some headway on their appeal. Maybe they're thinking, hey, maybe it can be 2 games. I don't know. And so that's just a big situation for them to watch out for. I don't really know what their direction or how they're feeling about the whole situation is right now.
The big offensive line question to me, and I'll put the question out there for you guys. We'll think about it as we go through the break and then get your answers about it. Walker Little is going to be the opening day left tackle. Whatever the suspension is for Cam Robinson, again, as we were just discussing, we don't know, 2, 4, 6 games, whatever that's going to look like. How confident are we that Walker Little is the long-term plan for the Jacksonville Jaguars? And long-term in the sense of when Cam Robinson is back and ready to play football again, say he has a 6-game suspension and we're going into week 10, right? Who's the left tackle when Cam Robinson is back and ready to go? And who's the left tackle for this football team in 24 and beyond? For this football team. So we'll discuss that. What does Walker Little's future look like here in Jacksonville? We got gems from around the National Football League as well as we continue along. It's a Wednesday edition of Jaguars Today on 1010XL.
Hey everybody, Mike Dempsey here for Pella Windows and Doors. So you've heard the story, golf ball crashed through my living room window, made me realize, you know what, maybe it's time to redo these old windows that we've had since the house was built. And it was time. And I went to Pella Windows and Doors, and man, my family couldn't be happier. They look great. They keep the house feeling great as well. They're Consumer Reports overall top choice for energy efficiency and stylish design. That's Pella Windows and Doors. When you need to replace your windows or doors, visit the Pella showroom on Phillips Highway or go online to PellaJacks.com.
Waste Management Wednesday continues from the Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute studios on 1010XL.
No dental insurance? No problem. Introducing the Care Plus program from the dental offices of Dr. James McCall. For only $625 per year, you will receive 2 cleanings and dental exams, a full set of x-rays, plus 1 emergency dental exam and x-ray. You'll also receive a 20% discount on all other services offered. Kids 12 and under will receive the same program program for only $525. Call Dr. McCall today at 620-9225.
Tired of the same old places for happy hour? Downtown's best is at Bellwether. It's Tuesday through Saturday from 4 to 7, with the exception on Friday when happy hour starts at 11 because why not? For all you late-nighters, Bellwether offers nightcap specials on Friday and Saturday from 9 to 11. Want a snack with your cocktail? Bellwether has a unique bar food spread. And guess what? All metered parking is free after 6 and weekends. That's Bellwether Downtown.
I'm Jeff Middlecoff with Trustline Mortgage. My business partners, Alan Tyre, Bill Pappas, and Ken Rimley, have been helping clients all over Florida with their construction perm loans for 34 years. Construction perm loans are not easy to find because a lot of banks and credit unions don't understand them, and therefore they don't like to do them. Well, your problem is solved. Trustline Mortgage wants to help you build your dream home. Our construction perm loans are single close, so you save money by not having to close twice, like with other lenders. Some of our construction perm loans allow you to lock in your interest rate up front. And if interest rates go down, we'll give you the better rate. We offer up to 100% VA loans, up to 96.5% for FHA loans, and up to 95% for conventional loans. Call Trustline Mortgage today at 381-LOAN. That's 381-LOAN to find out how we can help you build your dream home. Or visit our website at trustlinemortgage.com. Trust your instincts and follow the line to Trustline Mortgage.
Certain restrictions apply. See office for details. Trustline is an equal housing lender. MLS number 331480.
Business owners, regular maintenance of your storm drains is crucial for preventing parking lot floods and protecting your property from damage. Give Duck Rooter a call today and schedule service with our VACCON team. 904-862-6769 or online at duckduckrooter.com.
Jeff Lageman, Kevin Faber, and Kirk Waltz bring you into the outdoors.
We've got 3 big bucks.
On the Nimnicht Outdoors Show, presented by Duck Rooter, 7 to 10 every Saturday morning on 1010XL.
Father's Day is coming up, and what better way to show your dad you care than with a gift from Woodcraft? Whether he's a diehard football fan or a golf enthusiast, we have the tools and supplies to help him create something he'll love. From personalized signs to custom golf club holders, the possibilities are endless. Plus, our experts are always here to help you with any project. So don't drop the ball this Father's Day. Head over to Woodcraft today. Woodcraft, the home of champion dads.
Follow the Gators as they chomp their way to the College World Series. Brought to you by Farrah & Farrah, the official personal injury law firm of the Jaguars. And Renewal by Anderson, the official window and door replacement partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Borland Groover is expanding in St. Johns County. Look for the new Advanced Surgery Center and Medical Facility open in Durbin Crossing in the summer of 2024. Learn more about it at borlandgroover.com.
Hi, this is Dave Barker with IHRS. If you're looking for a real solution to your thinning hair or hair loss, call IHRS now at 904-777-IHRS.
What's causing your hair to fall out? Can your hair grow back? Get to the root of your problem with IHRS Hair and Scalp Analysis. This analysis magnifies your hair and scalp 400 times to see what procedures can restore your hair. Call right now for your free analysis, 904-777-IHRS, or visit hairforme.com. Stop wasting money on solutions that don't work. IHRS has been restoring hair for men and women for over 30 years. They are the only clinic to offer the trademarked multi-unit hair grafting PRP platelet-rich plasma and the NeoGraft FUE hair transplant procedure.
Schedule your free hair and scalp analysis today. Call 904-777-IHRS or visit hair4me.com. Hairforme.com.
Custom fireplaces, outdoor kitchens, and more. You dream it, they build it at CSS Fireplaces and Outdoor Living. Schedule a showroom tour and let CSS help you create your dream space. Visit CSSFireplaces.com.
He knows where the bodies are buried.
We've been approached already by the DOD, the FBI, the CIA.
We're a separate division. Bleacher Report college football insider, Matt Hayes.
I don't want to talk about it.
Noon to 3 weekdays on 1010XL. All Jags, all NFL. Jaguars Today on 1010XL. All Jags, all NFL. Jaguars Today on 1010XL.
Tony Smith, Demetrius Harvey, John Shipley, E.T. here with you. It is Jaguars Today. Mike Dempsey on assignment today and through the rest of the week. Back with us on Monday. We were talking offensive line as we were going into the break and wanted to talk Walker Little coming out of it. How confident are you that Walker Little is the long-term left tackle for this franchise right now?
I'm personally not, super confident. I don't know. I mean, he's only played 7 games or started 7 games in his career. I think that you have to sort of weigh that and say, hey, you should wait and see. I'm pretty much a wait and see guy for the offensive line in general. But with Walker Little at left tackle, it's going to be, something that we'll see, play out throughout the entire season. I think that what he's shown, though, is that he's definitely worthy of getting a chance. I think that he's been a guy who's been able to come in and play well. Outside of that Chiefs game, I thought that he had a pretty good, end stretch there with Cam Robinson out. So I think that it's a situation where, he's probably serviceable now. He's probably, he could play well. He has shown he can play well, but it's still very much a wait and see approach for me, at least.
I'm honestly on the other end. I think that he is the long-term left tackle. I think he's somebody who, obviously, like you said, he hasn't gotten nearly the experience of some other guys because he was drafted into a situation where they already had 2 starting tackles. But if you look at it this way, Jawan Taylor just got one of the biggest deals on the open market, and he almost didn't win that job from Walker Little last year. So I think every performance we've seen from Walker Little, like if he was going out there and playing poorly and was like a turnstile, that'd be differently. But it's tough for me to say, like, there's been, like you said, outside of a couple plays against the Chiefs, any instances where you're like, okay, dang, this guy isn't ready. So I think the big thing with playing, the left tackle position is reliability. And, obviously Cam Robinson is, I think if you ask the Jaguars who their best left tackle is, they'd probably say Cam Robinson just because he has as much experience as he does. But it's also somebody, with injuries over the last couple of years, like you need somebody you can rely on game in and game out. And I think when they look at it big picture, I think Little's going to be, that guy moving forward. And I don't think, they sign him to a new deal until probably even after, his rookie deal's up after his 4th year. But I do think Walker Little, you move forward into the next 3 or 4 years, I do think he is the long-term left tackle.
Yeah, it's been a weird couple of years, right, for Walker Little. You can understand his rookie year, why he maybe didn't play as much coming off the injury, right, hadn't played football really for a while. So, you already have a couple guys in Cam Robinson and Jawan Taylor that you feel comfortable with, right? So it's okay. So he doesn't play a whole lot his rookie year. Then you go into year 2 and say, open competition. Best man's going to win the right tackle job. Well, he doesn't win it. He got close, but he doesn't win it. Ultimately, right? Jawan Taylor takes that job and plays really well. Last year, the best season of his career, gets the big payday from the Chiefs on the other end of it. This year, you got the Cam Robinson suspension. They draft Anton Harrison. They're attached at least to maybe being a team that was interested in trading for Jonah Williams, right? Like it's all this different stuff keeps happening to Walker Little. And every time one of these things comes up in my mind, because I thought going into last offseason, it was like, all right, Walker Little is going to be a starting tackle for this football team, right? Like that was my thought last year at this time. And then as you went through into training camp, it's like Walker Little may not win the right tackle job, right? It started to become, okay, Jawan Taylor, he's got all this experience. He's playing much better after kind of a year, the year before, right? Like all those things were going on. It's like, okay, ultimately he doesn't win the job. And then you go into another offseason and it's like, well, they're drafting another offensive tackle, right? In the first round, they're talking about at least trading for Jonah Williams. And every time one of those things would come up in my mind, I'm like, what do they really think of Walker Little? Like, how confident can they be in this guy as a player if they continue to look for other answers at these spots? I understand competition on a roster, and I think all that, look, it's fair. Push a guy as hard as you can push a guy to go and win a job. It feels like he's going to be handed the left tackle job to start this season. I think he's a good enough player to hold on to it for 2023, right? Like, I feel like he can do that even whenever Cam Robinson is healthy and ready to go. I think that Walker Little is likely going to be the left tackle for the entire 2023 season, given what the future looks like for Cam Robinson. But I'm not convinced of it, right? And it would be nice to have a guy like Walker Little that you could just say, you know what, enough of this. Like at some point that he would be a guy that steps into one of these roles and says, enough of it. No one's beating me out again, right? For the next 8 years, nobody's beating me out for whatever position I'm competing for, but we haven't seen it yet.
Mm-hmm. I think the biggest issue with him has been timing. I mean, it's just been poor timing. They drafted him when they already had a couple guys they had just recently drafted within the last 4 or 5 years, however long. And then so he's not going to play his first year, and then he was also out obviously that COVID year, and then before with the knee injury. So he didn't have a lot of experience then. And then you hit into his second year when he's going up against Jawan Taylor. I don't think there was ever a competition with Cam Robinson. They loved Cam Robinson, especially what he played through in that 2021 season. So that was never going to happen. And then Jawan obviously comes in. He has the hamstring injury, so that gave Walker Little some some headway. But then Jawan comes back. He's more experienced. He's played more than the 3 games that Walker had played up to that point. So then all of a sudden Walker has to take another backseat, and then he comes in again for Cam late in the year. And then now they're in this weird situation where they drafted Anton, and then they have Cam Robinson. But, luckily, quote unquote, for Walker, Cam is potentially going to miss several games. So he's going to have that head start now from, at this point where Cam's still rehabbing from that injury to, at least, maybe a couple games into the season where he's probably going to be the guy. I'm really curious to see what they do in training camp because Cam doesn't have to miss that. So are they going to play Walker Little at left tackle for that time, or are they going to say, Cam, you're going to still be the starter, and then we'll have Walker rotate in? So that's going to be the biggest next storyline.
And do they move any of those pieces along the line, right? Like they do have a question at left guard as far as who that's going to be. When we get Cam Robinson back after 2, 4, 6 games, whatever it is, does it make the most sense for one of our tackles that we see as a tackle right now to be the guard? Right? And how much does that show up in training camp as far as reps for all these guys? It would be nice, again, if the league would let them know what exactly they're going to be dealing with. But I do think it's one of the big questions going into training camp.
I think the offensive line, other than a pass rush, obviously, I think the offensive line is the biggest question entering training camp just because, I mean, you see it, Demetrius, like I do at OTAs when they have their players break up, the ones who are healthy and the ones who are still working their way back. I mean, Cam Robinson, Ben Barch, and Josh Wells are all guys who, at this moment, are still currently recovering. I mean, those are 3 of your top 7 offensive linemen overall. I mean,
your starters.
There's some significant questions. I guess my question to you is, does it reflect any confidence in Walker Little that we haven't heard for a second them even suggesting Anton playing left tackle when he was a college left tackle? Like the first round pick is automatically the right tackle. Is that so?
I think it's big. I think it's big because, they could have easily said Anton's going to play left tackle while Cam is out, and we're going to have Walker at right tackle. But no, they said, no, we feel strongly that Walker Little is a left tackle. And they played with him at right tackle last year just because of the situation. But clearly they wanted him to play left tackle. They want him to be, in my opinion, it shows that they want him to be the left tackle of the future. And so that's sort of what you're getting right now with Anton now at right tackle. There was never a time where, Doug or Trent or anybody came out and said he's
They've never
left.
said left tackle one. And this is a guy who, he started one game his whole college career at right tackle. So he's the one. Walker's a natural left tackle too, hit by design. But Anton, you just used the first round pick on him. So to me, I do think there is confidence in Walker Little. And I think offensive tackle is just one of those positions that, they want to have an embarrassment of riches at. When they took Walker Little, having 3 offensive tackles, at the end of the day, only 2 of them can play. So you're wondering, the third guy, you're getting the best bang for your buck. But then you have cases like last year when Cam went down. They didn't have Walker Little last year. They had, a typical backup left tackle. I don't think they make the playoffs.
No, I don't think so either. And the thing is, it was kind of crazy. Cam goes down, and I don't know about you guys. I didn't notice anything different. I didn't notice anything. I wasn't like, oh, man, that left side's now a disaster. And it could have been because if you had a poor player there, you have Tyler Shatley at left guard who wasn't the starter coming into the season. Sure. It could have been a disaster. It could have been an issue. Luke Fortner as a center, rookie, that left side could have been bad. So, for Walker Little to be able to come in and be able to play as well as he did, I thought that probably, sparked some of their minds saying, hey, maybe this is the guy that we can roll with.
Yeah, it's a weird kind of thing with Walker Little because I think he's a good player, right? And I think when he's been given opportunities to play, has played well. But he's also been put in multiple competitions for jobs, and he's lost them, right? And it's at some point, I want Walker Little to win one of those competitions, right? I feel fine with him being on the field. I just feel like if they throw him into another, you got to compete with this guy for this spot, win it. I think you're a good enough player to play it, win it, right? And at some point, if you're going to commit to a guy to be the long-term backside protector for Trevor Lawrence, you need it to be a guy that you feel more confident in than, you know what, if we need him to play, we can play him in that spot, right? And I think that's kind of where they're at right now with Walker. And to some degree, that's why they keep doing what they're doing, is I think they're begging for him to do it. They want it. Like, they want it badly for Walker Little to show up to be that guy. As I say every time we talk about Walker, if you were going to build a left tackle in a mold, it's Walker Little. Right? Like, he is the walking embodiment of what a left tackle looks like.
I mean, people forget he was like an all-world high school recruit. You know,
Yeah.
if you know, you mentioned timing has kind of been the big thing for his NFL career. Same thing with college. Like, he had that, you know, ACL injury. He's able to recover from it. He would have been able to play during the 2019 season, 2020 season. Then COVID hits. So, you know, it's just a guy who timing is really just,
it's been terrible,
you know, like pecked away at it. Yeah.
All right, E.T., want to talk about today's question of the day, but first let's take a look at some of the news from around the NFL.
Now, Gems Around the NFL, brought to you by Beach's Jewelry and Pawn in Jax Beach.
San Francisco defensive end Nick Bosa spoke to media yesterday and was asked about the potential for getting his new deal done before the start of training camp. Bosa said that his confidence in that getting done is pretty high, and added that he is pretty confident about that. Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin was able to participate in team drills for the first time this offseason as he continues to take steps in his return from an on-field cardiac arrest event last year that led to him being hospitalized for 9 days in January. He's back out on the practice field. That's pretty incredible. There for Damar Hamlin up there with the Bills. Miami head coach Mike McCarthy said that center Connor Williams was not there for the start of the team's mandatory minicamp on Tuesday, and as he described it, that it wasn't an, quote, excused absence, end quote. San Francisco head coach Kyle Shanahan said yesterday that quarterback Brock Purdy is ahead of schedule in his recovery from surgery on the throwing elbow that was injured during the NFC Championship game. Ian Rappaport reported on Tuesday that Las Vegas quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo is expected to be ready for the start of training camp. Garoppolo had foot surgery this offseason, and Cleveland Browns players Greg Newsome II and Perion Winfrey alleged that they were robbed at gunpoint by 6 masked men while they were leaving a Cleveland nightclub early Monday morning. According to a police report, the two players left the Cleveland nightclub early Monday morning. When they got to Newsome's truck in a nearby parking lot, 6 masked men jumped out of an unknown car and robbed them at gunpoint at 3:30 a.m. In addition to stealing jewelry, the suspects fled in Newsome's truck. Police are attempting to locate that stolen vehicle. Thank goodness both those guys are okay, but certainly not a fun situation to be in there. It's not a fun way to leave the club, is when 6 guys in masks come storming at you.
It's scary.
3:30 in the morning. That is a wild story. We'll get to our answers to today's question of the day, brought to you by Chad and Sandy Real Estate. What would Calvin Ridley have to accomplish this season for you to be in favor of the Jags offering him a 4-year, $84 million deal, which would make him the 9th highest paid wide receiver in average annual value? We'll give our answers as we put a bow on Jaguars Today next here on 1010XL.
Keeping the Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute studios clean. It's a Waste Management Wednesday on 1010XL. JOI, where the pros go.
Want a low down payment and a low monthly payment on your next ride? Then you've got to go to Arlington Toyota Pre-Owned. Mia here. Right now, you can buy a pre-owned 2019 Toyota Corolla for just $1,000 down and $288 a month. Or you choose a pre-owned 2020 Camry, RAV4, or Tacoma for just $1,000 down and $388 a month. With over 400 used in stock plus more than 100 vehicles under $18,000, don't wait. 10939 Atlantic Boulevard and online at arlingtontoyota.com.
Why live with foot or ankle pain? If you have persistent pain, numbness, tingling, burning pain on the bottom of your foot, or swelling that doesn't improve with home treatment, it may be time to see Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute. Our foot and ankle specialists have innovative new options to help you get back in the swing of things without persistent pain that slows you down. Call JOI 2000 or go to joionline.net for an appointment.
The players are on the field, and 1010XL is there. Driven by Tire Outlet. Listen for 1010XL's coverage of organized team activities and minicamp. Brought to you by Duck Duck Rooter Plumbing and Septic Services and Safe Harbor Seafood Restaurant and Market.
Cataracts can take a toll on the quality of a loved one's life. Maybe it's even your parents or someone close to you. Hey, Hicken here. I've been talking to you about Bowden Eye. And it turns out renowned cataract care is right here at Bowden Eye & Associates. Their doctors help those with cataracts feel hopeful, sometimes for the first time in a long time. If someone you love is suffering from cataracts, schedule a visit for a personal consultation. 3 locations to serve you, including the new office on County Road 210 in St. Johns County.
We're the only animal on the planet that pretends like the female of our species is weak. Have you guys ever met a woman?
Helmets and heels.
Not weak at all.
Driven by Tire Outlet.
And presented by Underwood Jewelers. Great, so we're all good? Tuesday nights at 6.
On 1010XL.
What if you could be credit card debt-free in 10 days and save as much as $1,000 a month? Loan Pronto's all-new Express Equity Line of Credit program is just what you need. Hey, it's Prosser here. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a small portion of the equity you have and enjoy a super low monthly payment. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days, and a $50,000 loan will only cost you around $400 a month. Use that money and pay off high-interest credit cards or do a home improvement project. You can access up to 90% of your home's equity, and 9 out of 10 homeowners won't even need an appraisal. So even if you did a total refi recently or just bought your home, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program. Stop the madness. Say no to 24% interest fees. Call Loan Pronto today. 904-999-1508. That's 904-999-1508. Or as always, you can visit loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Summer is here, so while you're at the beach or on your bike, head on down to Sliders Oyster Bar in Neptune Beach, where you'll find the absolute freshest seafood in all of the 904. The biggest shrimp, the saltiest oysters, the freshest fish, all here at our newly renovated restaurant in Neptune Beach. Fresh seafood delivered daily by Safe Harbor, straight from the boat to your plate. Unique oyster specials daily, along with mixed cocktails from the bar. Come enjoy this beach vibe. Sliders Oyster Bar in Neptune Beach, locally owned by Safe Harbor Seafood.
Did you know that many cooling companies are now part of big conglomerates with no connection to Northeast Florida? In the past, they have concentrated on heating and air conditioning, but after a buyout, many add plumbing and electrical services. This raises their overhead, and those costs are passed on to the consumer. It's a case where bigger isn't better, it's just more expensive. Not Mike Merritt's Heating and Air. Mike Merritt remains family-owned and operated. Merritt's focus has been the same for more than 30 years, keeping Northeast Florida comfortable, no matter what the weather. And there are no overtime or weekend surcharges. Mike Merritt's team does not work on commission. They repair only what needs repair and offer replacements only on what can't be fixed. And unlike at giant corporations where you can feel like just another number, with Mike Merritt, you'll feel like number one. Florida license CACO 50384.
Where's the longest cave system in the world? The answer in a moment.
There's always a good reason to compare homeowners' insurance rates. You may be paying too much. Protect your home with a Southern Oak insurance policy today.
Our family protecting yours, Southern Oak Insurance.
With over 400 miles meandering through 3 counties, Mammoth Cave National Park in Kentucky is the longest cave system in the world.
Southern Oak Insurance. Our family protecting yours.
I'm with Greg from Cycles of Jacksonville, and Triumph is such a hard, big, beautiful bike. If they come into the showroom, what can they find?
You're going to find everything from the modern classics, the Trident, the Scramblers, the Bobbers. We've got it all.
And inventory's always changing, right?
It is always changing. It's fluctuating fast. If you see it, you better get it.
So come on into the showroom. That's the easiest way. Or log on to cyclesofjacksonville.com. You're on Atlantic near Regency. That's Cycles of Jacksonville.
When your vehicle needs an oil change, but you just haven't got the time, run into the newest Famous Quick Lube location on San Jose near Crown Point. It's the same fast, affordable vehicle care at your convenience. That's famous Quick Lube.
It's hard to explain, but play-by-play just sounds better on the radio.
What a turn of events!
1010XL, Jacksonville's home for play-by-play. Now, more Jaguars Today on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Jaguars Today
on 1010XL.
Tony Smith, E.T., Demetrius Harvey, John Shipley joining us here on a Wednesday edition of Jaguars Today. Want to get to our question of the day here in just a moment, but we didn't get to Monday's question, which I wanted to ask you guys about as well. When we asked which of these players would you most like to see the Jaguars sign to a one-year deal, right? And your options in the poll were DeAndre Hopkins, which has been asked and answered. They're not going to go after DeAndre Hopkins, but I can understand fans that would still like to see him do it. But DeAndre Hopkins, Justin Houston, Yannick Ngakoue, Marcus Peters. If they were to sign one of those players to a one-year deal, who would you most like to see him sign?
I think Justin Houston makes the most sense.
Yeah.
They're finally in that position where veterans who want to go ring chasing can actually look at them and be like, okay, this place makes sense. And, any edge that they add is going to be, at best, edge number 3. And, you look at DeJuan Smoot and Arden Key snaps last year. They were around, 50%. That's not going to be somebody who plays a ton. So, personally, if you're a guy like Ngakoue, I'm not sure how much that appeals to him because if you're only playing 50% of the snaps, how likely are you to receive a better deal, next year? But for a guy like Houston, who's at the twilight of his career, he's already seen as that kind of veteran pass rush specialist. Plus, I think he'd do wonders for Trayvon Walker.
Absolutely. I think that's one of the biggest things that you mentioned at the end there. Trayvon's going to be able to have a guy, if Houston would come in, a guy that he can learn from, a veteran guy. I think that's one of the things that Doug talked about last season with him is that, having those kind of guys around him to show him the way, so to speak, is important. That's why I feel like Josh Allen is important. Obviously not this time. It doesn't really matter if he's there or not. But, moving forward, it's important for Trayvon to have a guy to at least look after. And I think that, Justin Houston could come in and he could provide that third-round pass rush. I'm looking at his stats right now, 9.5 sacks last year.
Yeah.
So, he has that production even at 34 or whatever he is now. And he probably wouldn't be expensive. Yet Jan came out and said that he wants a longer-term deal more than those one-year contract. I can't.
It doesn't seem like something they'd be very interested
I just can't see
in.
the fit. Yeah. So, Justin Houston among that list. I hadn't really considered Marcus Peters. I don't know if that would even be a good fit at all, honestly. Having him, I don't think, where would you put him inside? And I don't know how much he's, excelled at that area necessarily. So I don't know if he would be a guy to bring in. But
I think it's one of those where, I think Darius Williams with the options they had last year clearly was the better option on the outside, right? Which is why they went from the slot to the outside. His better position is on the outside, right? But if you brought in a guy like Marcus Peters, then you could put Williams back inside, right? He can play in the slot. He was better on the outside than any of your other options on the outside, and it was his better position, so it made sense. But I do think the Marcus Peters thing is something that'll never happen for a bunch of different reasons, right? I don't know what he would do to the locker room. He's a volatile guy. All these different things, I'm not sure that it would make sense for a bunch of reasons. But in my mind, I think put Marcus Peters on the other side of Tyson Campbell, and somebody has to throw at Tyson Campbell, a little bit more than they have been, especially last year. I think that's intriguing to me. The idea of that, again, I don't think it's something that the team would seriously consider.
No, I just can't see it. And Williams, he can play inside, but even going back to his Rams game, I talked to John about this extensively. He never really played in the slot.
Yeah.
So, he was always an outside guy. When they brought him in and said he was a slot, John was the first one to tell me. He was like, I don't know, man. so you kind of sit there and you think, all right, if you can just keep Williams outside and you have Trey Herndon, who came in and played solid, at the end of that season last year.
That's right.
I think it's Sean's guy, but I think that's sort of at that point where you can kind of roll the dice there, and if there's no guy to be able to sign that's coming in and playing slot corner right away, having Marcus Peters, like you said, might disrupt the locker room. I'm not sure about his pass really too much, but and he's a guy that quarterbacks pick on sometimes, because he's so risky. But then it also pays off because he gets the pick sixes and stuff. Yeah. So yeah, I could see why that would be intriguing. I just can't see them doing it.
This might be a galaxy brain thing, but I think so many people, think Darius Williams when they signed him last year was like a typical slot guy, just because he looks like it. I mean, he is a small cornerback. Like he's not your typical outside cornerback at all. But I mean, his splits between inside and outside last year, it was staggering. Like I mean, he was just by the numbers in terms of yards per target when thrown at, quarterback rating, completion percentage allowed. I'd say just number wise and film wise, down to probably last 7-8 weeks of the season, including postseason, he was one of the 10 best outside cornerbacks, just performance wise in the NFL last year. So I was surprised that they didn't add any veterans at cornerback. Like I thought you would at least add somebody who could maybe compete with Trey Herndon in the slaughter. Maybe somebody who, like you said, could be on the outside and put Williams inside, because while he is, in my opinion, much better outside, it's not like he's a complete sleeve inside. So it was interesting to me that they didn't add to the secondary, and I know they ended up spending several picks there, but I mean, you have 13 picks, and there was like a 5th round pick and 2 6th rounders, and then last year's a 6th round pick and a 7th rounder. Like so they're throwing a lot of darts at the position, but they aren't really making any giant investment.
No, yeah, and I know it's something we talked about getting ready for the first round of the draft, right? There were a lot of corners names that got thrown around. There were safeties that were talked about. Well, this guy can step down and play slot corner and do those kind of things. So we would have discussions from time to time about whatever corner may be the apple of your eye, would he be an inside or an outside guy? And what would that mean for Darius Williams if they got a guy who was more predominantly an outside guy? And in my head, I was like, Darius can play the slot. I don't think that's his best position. But if you drafted a guy in the first round and you said, well, his best position is outside, and that's 100%. Where you wanted to play him, be like, cool, right? Like, I think you might be improving your slot and your outside position by being able to do that kind of thing. I think Peters can do the same thing, but Peters does come with the baggage that comes with Peters, right? Which is why I think it's a non-starter. For the Jaguars from that perspective. So I didn't include him in the poll because I'm like, this one will get, the Jaguars. It's more like Marcus Peters is a really good corner. And being able to play that guy opposite of Tyson Campbell is intriguing, at least, right? It's not something that I ever think is going to – it's the DeAndre Hopkins thing. They're not going after DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, and that was the day that Doug came out and said, we're not going after DeAndre Hopkins, essentially. It's like we don't have room in the room for him right now, which is wild, as we talked about early in the show.
And you don't often see head coaches like basically emphatically say, no, this isn't going to happen. Most times they'll be like, I don't know, but we consider everything. But like he straight up says, like, this isn't even a reality for us. So I agree with you. I think, looking at potential moves the Jaguars can make, it really feels like any veteran they add, has to be at one of those two positions. It really makes you think about how much time everybody individually wasted talking about and watching all these edge rushers and cornerbacks. Like I watched like 20-something cornerbacks, and none of them were the ones they ended up drafting. So I'm like, what could I have done with that time?
Well, you'll be ready in 4 years when they're free agents.
That's right.
That kind of thing. You'll at least have a scouting report on those guys. I do think ultimately with the veteran edge rushers, and I included Houston and Ngakoue in that poll. It does feel more and more like Ngakoue is asking for more than anybody's willing to give at this point, and he's going to have to blink when it comes to wherever he's going to land. I think Jacksonville is really an attractive landing spot for somebody, right? To come in and be, if you're willing to be a part-time pass rush specialist, Jacksonville is a really intriguing landing spot because they are going to be the path to a division championship is clear, right? So you're going to be in the playoffs if you come to Jacksonville. Can you be the piece that gives them a better chance to beat Kansas City and Cincinnati and Buffalo when it comes playoff time? And I think a pass rusher could look at this opportunity and say, yeah, for 1 year, I'm going to go down there. I'm going to be what Justin Houston has been in Baltimore the last couple of years. Like, it makes sense from that perspective. In my mind, I keep circling back to Melvin Ingram being the guy.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the guy that I think ultimately, if they are going to sign one of these guys, especially with Floyd signing the deal he signed, 1 year, $7 million, $9 million with incentives, Like, if you're going to be able to get Melvin Ingram for 5,
Oh, yeah.
you know, something like that, which I wouldn't be surprised if at this point, if that's what it winds up being. I don't think Frank Clark will take it. I don't think Unique Ngakoue will take it yet. But I think Melvin Ingram might.
That's the thing. It feels like Ngakoue has never and maybe won't accept that that the NFL sees him as like a designated pass rusher.
Right.
You know, it feels like he wants to be paid like a full-time starter, which understandable. Like, you have his track record as a pass rusher. I'd probably feel the same way, but it just feels like the NFL has emphatically told him.
He's still playing 75, 80% of the defensive snaps the last couple of years. Like, he is the starter where he's been the last couple of years. So he's not had that role yet.
Yeah.
And it does feel like Jacksonville would be saying, no, you're going to be a 50% of the snaps max guy. Like, that's who you're going to be here.
He's still one of the best, like, just pure pass rushers in the league.
Yeah.
I mean, the guy's never had fewer than 8
affects the quarterback,
sacks.
man. He gets the ball out of their hand,
Yeah,
too.
The consistency is amazing.
Even when he was traded, I'm looking at stats now. Even when he was traded, you know, from Minnesota to Baltimore, he was able to have 5 and 3 sacks, you know, respectively there. So, you know, he had a total of 8 sacks that year. So, like, I mean, the guy definitely has that ability to affect the quarterback like the Jaguars need. Honestly, in an ideal world for the Jaguars, I feel like he would be perfect. He would be the guy you bring in, and then all of a sudden you have a guy that can come in on third down, replace not necessarily Arden Key snaps because Arden's a little bit more stout, but just in terms of being able to provide pass rush, I think that's exactly what you want. But yeah, like you guys said, like, I don't think that he would be a guy to take that sort of 1-year deal. And Melvin Ingram is in a similar spot to, I think, like a Clowney kind of guy where, you know, he's every year it's going to be like a bounce around kind of thing now. And I think that he is a guy that could come in and provide some sort of spark.
Yeah, Clowney has the disadvantage of being a run stuffer on top of that at this point in his career, too. Our question of the day asking, what would Calvin Ridley have to accomplish this season for you to be in favor of the Jags offering him a 4-year, $84 million deal, which would make him the 9th highest paid wide receiver in average annual value? For you, Demetrius, what kind of season would Calvin Ridley have to get that offer?
Yeah, I think he would, you know, first and foremost have to be available. They always talk about that. He would have to be a guy that's not getting injured every single week or you know, miss a significant amount of time. But, you know, and as far as numbers go, it's kind of hard to predict only because they have like different kind of weapons. He's coming off of the 2 years now, basically. So if he's able to get 1,000 yards, you know, 5 to 7 touchdowns, something like that, I mean, even maybe fewer touchdowns, I think that would be worth the investment just because you know his potential. You're going to see it every week. Even if he doesn't have those like 200-yard, you know, 150-yard games or some crazy games, you're going to see it every week on why he's so important. So, yeah, I think that as long as he has a productive season, he doesn't look, you know, completely washed out there, basically. I think that's an easy deal to make.
Yeah, to me, it's 80 catches, 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. I see him get close to those numbers, and I'm sprinting to sign him just because, like you said, maybe his production won't reflect his actual talent because, I mean, they have Christian Kirk to also share the ball to. They have Zay Jones. They have Evan Ingram. Travis Etienne's obviously going to get his touches. But if he can at least show that he's similar to the player that he was in Atlanta, which everything we've seen so far suggests that he is. I don't know about – I know OTAs are pretty toned down, but I personally – he's been exactly, you know, what I expect. He's looked like Calvin Ridley. He looks different than any other receiver that they've had. So if he can get close to those numbers, then I think you run this on him.
You look at the wide receivers in the league right now, Tyreek Hill at $30 a year, Devontae Adams, 28, Cooper Kupp, 26.7, A.J. Brown, 25, Stephon Diggs, 24, DK Metcalf, 24, Deebo Samuel, 23.8. I don't think there's a position in the league that has the hierarchy better as far as the money what guys are getting than the wide receiver position right now in the National Football League. That's crazy that those are the guys in that order that are getting that kind of money. It's, you know, we just went over the edge rushers. It's like, why is that guy there? You know, like even going through the top 7 or 8 names, it's a bunch of the guys deserve a lot of money, but wide receiver, everyone that's getting the money deserves the money they're getting at this point in the league. With that, let's say hello to XL Primetime.
The 2-minute drill brought to you by Tire Outlet. Tire Outlet is now hiring. Visit tireoutlet.com/careers. Equal opportunity employer.
As we say hello to Matt Hayes, we were asking almost the same exact question about Josh Allen yesterday. We asked it 4 years, $80 million for Josh Allen next year. What kind of year would he have to have? Today we're asking Calvin Ridley, 4 years, $84 million. What kind of season would he have to have for you to be okay with that offer?
Let's circle back to Josh Allen real quick.
Sure.
I mean, it's got to be like 11, 12 sacks.
Maybe.
I mean, there's no way he can have another single sack season. You say I'm going to invest $80 million.
I don't know.
No. And I know, I'm the first guy that says sacks are overrated because I believe they are.
Mm-hmm.
But he doesn't affect the quarterback like an $80 million guy. So now you're talking about receiver. I mean, that's where stats definitely dictate. I mean, 70, 80 catches, 1,400 yards, 11, 12, 13 scores. Then I think I'd invest that kind of money in. Yeah, because, I mean, you know, we talk about catches and yards a lot. It's touchdowns. How many times do you get in the end zone?
Well, and he's been a remarkably efficient touchdown scorer during his time in Atlanta. We'll see if that carries over to his time here in Jacksonville. It was always one of the knocks against Julio Jones. That guy's a monster. Like, he's a physical freak. It's like, why doesn't he score more, right? Like, it was a thing with Julio for years.
Yes,
but
get
Calvin
in
Ridley,
the end zone, yes.
Right, Calvin Ridley's not the biggest guy, but his route running breaks people down in that part of the field. So
And the run after the catch, yes. I mean, like Agnew at the 5 where he fumbles the ball against the Chiefs.
Yeah.
You got a true one there that you're going to there. He makes a move, he breaks a tackle, he's in the end zone.
Yeah.
Get in the end zone.
I'm still stunned every time I see Agnew. It's like, this guy was a corner 3
Right,
years
no
ago.
offense. I mean, he's done wonders for the team. I'm not jumping on, but I mean,
No.
a true one there gets that ball and goes in.
That he's as good a wide receiver as he is at this point.
Right,
It's like
it's
he hadn't been
amazing.
doing it a long time. Like it's
Agreed.
really incredible every time I see it. What do you got coming up today on prime time?
We got Spicer coming on.
Nice.
Talk a little
Spice is my
Jags,
guy.
and we're gonna talk some Jags. We're gonna get more into college football as well. You know us, man. It's all college football, NFL. Maybe a little Live versus PGA Tour. And now it's like, what's the name gonna be? By the way, I offered up. When Sirius and XM combined, they just made it Sirius XM.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just gonna be like PJ Live now. Is that what we're gonna say?
I have no idea.
Or P Live. P Live might be pretty good actually.
That's not terrible.
P Live's got a little 21st century ring to it too.
Yeah,
P Live.
Yeah, that's not bad at all. All right, Maddie, we'll be listening. XL
guys.
Prime Time coming up next from noon to 3. Fellas, I appreciate you coming in for the show today. I'm sure we'll talk again a few times between now and training camp, but I know you guys are hitting the vacation hard after we get done with the mandatory mini camp next week. But yeah, Demetrius, appreciate you coming in today, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, I will be going on vacation for a couple of weeks soon enough. So when you guys don't see anything from my Twitter feed, that's where I am. So, but
God
yeah,
bless you,
I'm
man.
always
Enjoy
glad
it.
to come on.
Yeah, no doubt. John, appreciate it as always, bud.
No, thank you. And like Demetrius said, I'm counting down the days until. Yeah, I don't know if anybody. I don't know if the players and coaches or the media is more excited for a mandatory minicamp. Gotta be by. Let's get going.
Yeah, no doubt. So one more time, guys, appreciate it. So for John Shipley, for Demetrius Harvey, for ET, for an on assignment, Mike Dempsey, I'm Tony Smith. Mike DeRocco scheduled to join us for the program tomorrow as we continue to get ready for the 2023 season for your Jacksonville Jaguars. XL Primetime coming up next here on 1010XL.
So guess what? 10-10 is popping, and there won't be no stopping. Bang, bang, bang.
It's a Waste Management Wednesday on Jaguars Today.
This is Jaguars Today from the Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute studios.
JOI, where the pros go.
We begin with Ed Werder.
Hi, I'm Ed Werder from ESPN.
And nobody knows that team better than our Ed Werder. He joins us from the headquarters
on 1010XL.
Did you know the 2023 Honda CR-V Hybrid never needs to be plugged in? The onboard system charges the batteries for you. When you think Honda, think hybrid. Good for the environment, great for your budget. Visit your local Honda dealer to experience the CR-V of the future today.
Hi, this is Dave Barker. Want to grow your hair back?
IHRS, right here in Jacksonville, is the only hair transplant clinic in the country that offers multi-unit hair grafting, FUE Neograft hair transplants, and the 45-minute effective PRP